Why don't we start with that? Obviously, the council's putting out this report this morning, and we're seeing some tough grades on competitiveness in the U.S., reminding me of my freshman year. What can we do about that? What are you personally doing about that?
Well, personally, I think it's what all of the members of the council are doing, and that is continuing to reinforce the importance of the activities that this organization plays. And I think we get the ears, but because of the activities that constantly are going on, it takes more and more repetitiveness than ever before. So we just have to continue to reinforce the importance of these messages and the fact that if we do make the changes that are being talked about, we can improve the economy and all the dimensions associated with that, which helps all sectors of the population. So it's constant, it's reinforcing it. I think the biggest challenge for all of us is how do we keep it fresh?
Right.
Because I wouldn't say a lot of this was just something that we figured out in the past year. These are topics that have been around for a while, but they need to have actions taken. And Sam said he was an optimist, and I think all of us have a bit of that, because otherwise we would have stopped a long time ago. So it's how do we reinforce it? How do we keep it fresh? How do we make it real? And how do we, as Mario mentioned, how do you keep it simple?
Right.
In a very complex world where there's just a lot happening in many dimensions.
One of the things I thought was interesting in listening to the presentation about the report card is that in some areas we're seeing the grades go down. In other areas there are grade improvements, which is always encouraging. People have been to study hall maybe. Where do you think the opportunities are for improvement? Within competitiveness broadly, where do you think the trend lines are improving and things are getting better?
Well, I think the major areas for improvement are certainly in the global competitiveness with respect to the continued investment in R&D at the federal level. I think they've always played an important role in basic R&D. Yes, it is the most expensive, but it's also something that no one organization can take on. And I think the spillover effects of that are dramatic, and we've seen that throughout history. So I think that's one area where the grade needs to continue to get better. I think the other aspect is what we need to do for trade and what we need to do for creating the environment for success of businesses. And trade, everyone knows the figures. 84% of the buying power is outside the U.S. So we need trade deals, and we need to be able to become a broader exporting country. And I think we have so many strengths that there's natural opportunities for us to take advantage of if we can improve the trade. And I think we need to have the tax environment be competitive, not something that is out of context of the rest of the OECD, but we need something that's competitive so that companies are willing to invest in the U.S., both domestic companies and international companies.
You're dealing with automation. You're in a little bit of a different place in the economy than our previous two CEOs, so I'll ask you the same question and see if we get a different answer. The jobs report that we had this morning seemed very bullish. Does it match with what you're seeing in your business?
I'm going to be redundant. No.
No. So that's three no's in three different pieces of the economy.
Yes. Matter of fact, I would say that in the last quarter, we've seen a decline, and in particular in the U.S. in the last quarter, and I think in some of the larger emerging countries. Certainly China is definitely different, as well as Brazil. And those are two very large economies that do impact the global trade and the global economy. So I would agree with both Sam's and Mario's characterization that we are not seeing that.
But it seems like we're seeing so much attention paid now to automation, to robots, to software. All of that would seem to be, right in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely, and I think the strength of our business is just what you said. We provide the productivity. What we do drives productivity and sustainability. So both of those are pretty important for improving the quality of life, improving the standard of living for everyone around the world. So it isn't something that is not relevant to everyone. And it's not that we don't see the opportunities, but what we're seeing is in this very low growth environment, people are not continuing to make the investments with the uncertainty they see 6 to 12 months out. And I think that's where the challenges are. We need to have some certainty in what companies can expect. I think the comment that was made, I believe it was Sam that said, we now have a 5-year infrastructure plan for transportation. That's great news. You can't plan on a year-by-year basis for these major projects. So
right.
Having some certainty is a good start, but at the end of the day, it really is going to have the confidence of business, the confidence of leaders to make investments for the future.
I want to ask you about robots. I saw a story the other day that a couple of news organizations, this is personal to me, a couple of news organizations have created software apps, robots, that are actually writing news stories these days. I saw that and I kind of blanched a little bit. This goes right at the heart of my job, right? Though I don't think they write them very well, but they're getting there, and maybe I don't either. So I think the question is for American workers, when they look at automation and they look at the rise of robots, how do you improve technology and improve that streamlining businesses while at the same time improving job growth for everybody?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to be careful as to how you look at the job figures. And for us in the automation business, in manufacturing, it's not about just simply direct labor. The boring, monotonous jobs are going to be automated. The jobs that...
But some of us need those boring, monotonous jobs.
No. That's what's going to go away. And that's why we have to take a whole new approach to how we approach education. And it is about knowledge. It is about multitasking. The automation improves the productivity, which improves the standard of living. But it creates opportunities for ancillary activities. The fact that you don't look at direct labor only, but what about all of the support that goes into those robots in your case? Mm-hmm. That requires a technology worker, a knowledge worker, much more than someone that was watching a machine produce parts going forward. So the skills are going to change, the requirements, the demands on the workers are going to change. How work is done is going to continue to change. That's where innovation has to now come, and that's what we have to prepare the workforce for, and it's going to be much more continuous learning. I mean, the pace of change is quickening. The need to be lifelong learners is much more. When I graduated from college, I had a half-life in my knowledge. The half-life today is pretty short with what is happening. So we have to prepare people for being constantly learning. We have to create the forums for that to occur. Business has a responsibility there. Educators have a responsibility there. The government has a responsibility there. But this, if we're going to continue to provide opportunities for people to increase their standard of living and their livelihoods, we're going to have to think differently about what does it mean and what is the workplace and how work gets done.
You do this for a living. I'm just kind of a fanboy about some of these technologies. I mean, there's so many dazzling headlines these days. You know, Google working on its automated car. Elon Musk is out there talking about Hyperloop, a fifth generation form of transportation that seems like something out of the Jetsons. There's all these dazzling things on the horizon. But as a professional, where do you see the innovation coming? What are the things that inspire you that you think are just around the corner?
Well, I think we're going to see a much greater usage of information than ever before. We've done a lot of automation over the last 20 to 30 years where we've improved the productivity by making things go faster, making things operate more automatically, if you will. And we've done that with computers and faster mechanical and mechanization of the equipment. What we haven't done is take that information that comes from those processes. I think Mario mentioned about how much information they produce in their lines and in their processes today. In that information is rich information that enables us to take it to the next level around turning it into knowledge and then turning it into wisdom. And so we're going to see data sciences becoming much more important as we go forward, whether you want to call that analytics or something different, big data. Manufacturing has big data. We produce a lot of information. I think the next wave of productivity improvement is going to be taking that information and turning it into knowledge and wisdom so you can take real-time actions and use real-time data to make better, more informed business decisions. And so we're seeing the convergence of the information technology and the operating technology, what goes on that plant floor. That convergence is where we see the next wave of productivity.
I think big data is so fascinating because you've got people who've spent their entire careers, entire lives, they've been in the factory, they've been in the boardroom, they feel like they know these businesses inside and out, and yet you plug all that data into the machine and it comes out with something totally counterintuitive. You were doing this your whole life and you believe like a religion that you should be doing it, but you should actually be doing something else. Where are those inflection points in the economy? Are there things that you have seen through the application of big data that people were doing that was not right, and we've learned entirely new and surprising things?
Well, certainly the areas where this is happening first is in the diagnostics areas around machinery. Historically, I guess when the machine broke, you fixed it. Or the more sophisticated was, we have a preventive maintenance program that we put on, and every 30, 60 annually, we go and do this. And it's just a good practice.
Regular maintenance.
Exactly. What we're seeing now is, and what the technology and capabilities allow us to do, is to have predictive diagnostics, where we can send out the alerts as to something is impending to fail, and that's when you go and fix it before it needs to be, before it goes down and the asset is not being able to be utilized. And so we see predictive diagnostics and a much better way of doing maintenance as opposed to the historical ways that it took place. Because at the end of the day, it's all around asset utilization. These are very expensive machines. The lines are getting more expensive. What you need to have is the uptime. And you need to have that producing at a high level of reliability. And to do that, you have to use the data, the signatures, the analysis that's coming off of the machines to tell you when something is deviating.
And I think that's fascinating, the idea that you could get away from regular maintenance and just get into sort of rifle shot maintenance. You could save a lot of money doing that. But I wonder if your customers are reluctant when they hear something like that, if it feels radical to them, if it feels unsettling. Is there a degree to which executives are not willing to trust the technology? And I'll give you one example. We talked about the Google automated car. One of our bureau chief out in Silicon Valley sent around a video this week where she saw the Google automated car out in the wild driving, and she pulled out her phone and videoed it, and the thing made a left on red. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, that can't be safe. Is that a bug or a feature? I wonder if you see some kind of that similar kind of discomfort with technology as you're operating your own business with your customers who might say, well, we've always done annual maintenance. Why would we change that?
Well, I don't see the discomfort in that same dimension for a couple of reasons. One, the people we talk to, they understand that we have been creating an efficient and effective control system already. It already is a safe environment for their workers to be involved in. This is not changing the way they run their processes or the way the equipment is operating. This is about how do you take advantage of another dimension, and that dimension is the information that you can now capture from those assets, as opposed to a fundamental change of the way their business is running. What they have to change is their work processes.
Right.
And the way they do work. And I think at times that's more not, I think that sometimes is where it's harder because the practices are long lasting and you're having to deal with many layers of management, and it does impact the way people do their jobs. And that means it gets personal. But at the end of the day, if you're going to continue to evolve, continue to remain globally competitive, you're going to have to, the innovation is not just about technology anymore. It's about the work processes, and it's about the business models that you have to run to take advantage of the new technologies. And so we're going to see and require a very important change in those two dimensions, not just technology. I mean, it's great technology that is going to enable it, but it's the innovation in work processes and the innovation in business models that are going to have to also take foot to be able to get full advantage of what this can bring.
So the theme of the day is competitiveness. We're obviously here in Washington. Let's end on an optimistic, forward-looking note. When you look at what's going on in Washington today and over the next year, where do you see the greatest opportunities to increase U.S. competitiveness? What are the things that Washington can do over, say, let's pick the next 12 months, that'll really drive innovation? Or does it have to wait until the next administration?
No, I just don't think. No, I laugh because 12 months is I think way too short of a period. We didn't get in this situation in the previous 12 months, so I think this is going to take a longer period of time. The good news is the conversations, we are having conversations today that we've never had before. I think the understanding is there. I don't think the political will is there in all cases, and the comment was made about leadership. That's leadership across the board. It's not just in one section of government, but I'm optimistic with respect to trade. I'm optimistic with respect to tax. All of these issues are well understood by the people in the right places to deal with them, including Paul Ryan, who happens to be from my state. So I am a Paul Ryan supporter. But what we need to do is to be able to bridge the great divides that exist to be able to deal with immigration, which you heard earlier. We need the best and the brightest, and they have to stay here. We need to have access to much more of the buying populations and the flow of capital in the world than we do today. We have the lowest cost energy. We have tremendous advantages. We have innovation. We have entrepreneurship. We have the best technology. We have great people skills and competencies in people. So the strengths are dramatic if we can get them aligned and focused on improving the competitiveness in those 3 to 4 dimensions. And so I think going forward, if we can just keep chipping away at these and just keep marching towards something that will enable the broader population to be able to participate and to see the benefits of doing this. I mean, we have to be able to create the reasons why we're asking for these changes, and I think that's the burning platform that people have to start. We have to have dialogue on it. We have to have the conversation, and we have to be able to move from the lack of a functioning political system to one that is focused on what is good for the country and for the vast majority of its population. And I think we're on a path that will enable that to occur, but it will not occur in 12 months.
Fascinating conversation. I learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.